Here I sit again, coming to the defense of Carson Wentz. It seems like I have been defending Carson Wentz the entire 15 or 16 months that I've had this channel. I defended him last season. I defended him over the summer when he was disrespected for something. I can't remember exactly what it was off the top of my head, but it was something. And now I am defending him again. The calls for Carson Wentz to be benched in Philadelphia are getting louder and louder. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that he has played well this season, because that would just be a lie. There are some who believe the Eagles should move on from Carson Wentz after this season. We're going to go over all this today. I'm going to tell you why Carson Wentz has regressed so much this season. I'm also going to tell you how the Eagles could move on from him, where he could possibly go that would be the best destination for him next year, and why I feel like ultimately that is not going to happen, and he will be the Eagles starter next year. Now let's start with Carson Wentz's performance so far in 2020. This is by far the worst season of his NFL career. Even in the Eagles' 3 wins, Carson Wentz has not played well. He hasn't had a quarterback rating over 91 all season. So pretty much he's played bad in just about every game this year. His completion percentage down nearly 5 points from 62.8 on his career to 58.1 this year. However, I don't feel like this is all on Carson Wentz. Think for a second about what he is dealing with right now in Philadelphia. For one, when he became a star in the NFL back in 2017, look at the weapons that he had offensively. He had Alshon Jeffrey in his prime, Zach Ertz. He had Lane Johnson at the peak of his career. He had Jason Peters anchoring an offensive line that actually protected him. One of the many issues right now in Philadelphia is the offensive line. Back in 2017, Carson Wentz was sacked 28 times, lowest of his career. Through 11 games this season, he has already been sacked 46 times, by far the highest in the NFL. The next quarterback on the list has been sacked 11 times less than Carson Wentz. So let's keep looking at what he's dealing with offensively in 2020. I just told you how bad the offensive line is, giving him no time to make decisions in the pocket. They're also banged up, like the rest of the roster. Every offensive lineman besides Jason Kelce has missed time this season. The Eagles' top 5 weapons, Ertz, Dallas Goedert, Alshon Jeffrey, Deshaun Jackson, Jalen Reagor, they have missed a combined 29 games this year. What do you expect from Carson Wentz with damn near half the roster and half the offensive roster anyway on IR every week? I mean, just think about it. He's got no offensive line. He's rushed on damn near every play. When he is trying to make plays or gets rare time in the pocket, he's looking across the field at practice squad players. Look at what happened earlier this season when the Saints were missing Michael Thomas. Drew Brees struggled bad. It took him 2 or 3 weeks before the Saints really started to gel offensively, and still they weren't 100%. The offense was completely different without Michael Thomas on the field. Now imagine for a second if it's not just Michael Thomas out, but also Alvin Kamara, Jared Cook, half the offensive line. That is what Carson Wentz has been dealing with, not just this year, but last year. I told you guys a couple of weeks ago that I think one of the major problems right now with Carson Wentz is his confidence, or the lack thereof. He has completely lost his confidence. He looks shaky in the pocket, which you can't really blame him because he's constantly under pressure. He is forcing passes into tight coverage, making bad decisions. But also think about this too in regards to the confidence issues with Carson Wentz. The 2017 season, when he became a superstar in the NFL, was in the MVP conversation. Leads the Eagles to an 11-2 record. He gets hurt towards the end of that season. Misses the entire playoffs. Nick Foles steps up, leads the Eagles to a Super Bowl win. The following season, 2018, Carson Wentz gets off to a shaky start. Philadelphia's 5-6, and he goes down with another season-ending injury. Nick Foles steps up once again, turns the Eagles season around, leads them to the playoffs where they lose to New Orleans, and they should have won that game in New Orleans. Alshon Jeffrey dropped an easy pass on fourth down that would have essentially given the Eagles that playoff win. Going into that offseason, there was an ongoing debate in Philadelphia. Who should the Eagles keep, Carson Wentz or Nick Foles? Now, of course, they kept Carson Wentz, offer him a massive contract extension, and they trade Nick Foles to Jacksonville. There were a lot of Eagles fans that thought the franchise made the wrong decision. I thought that the Eagles made the wrong decision. We've discussed that several times here on the channel. I think Nick Foles fit Doug Peterson's system better than Carson Wentz does. Anyway, the Eagles make their decision. They pay Carson Wentz. And the quarterback drama in Philadelphia is seemingly behind him. He finally feels secure. He's the franchise quarterback. This is his team. Now, they get off to a slow start in 2019. Actually, they were bad for 3/4 of that season. But that's because half the damn roster was on IR. Then we all know what happened. Carson Wentz goes on an unbelievable stretch the last 4 games of the season. Goes 117 for 173, completing 68% of his passes, 7 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Biggest game of the season against Dallas, the game that determined the winner of the NFC East. Carson Wentz completes 77.5% of his passes, throws for 319 yards, completely outplays Dak Prescott, who was in a contract year. Carson Wentz did all of that with practice squad players. And how did the Eagles repay him? They go out and draft Jalen Hurts in the 2nd round and reignite another quarterback controversy in Philadelphia. Sources after the draft in Philadelphia said that at the time, Carson Wentz was pissed off when the Eagles drafted Jalen Hurts. And who in the hell can blame him? He had just carried a roster of bums to the playoffs. Instead of receiving the credit that he rightly deserved, he gets criticized by the fan base, and the team goes out and drafts a potential replacement quarterback. Now, with all that I just said, the question is, has the damage been done, or has too much damage been done? Are we past the point of no return in Philadelphia between the Eagles and Carson Wentz? Are the Eagles going to move on from him this offseason? I think fans in Philadelphia are going to push for it. And maybe Carson Wentz is going to want out of Philadelphia. I don't know. But there are some problems with that. They might be stuck with each other, at least for one more season, because of his contract. Because of his contract, he's essentially uncuttable. I mean, the Eagles could cut him, but they would be ignorant to do so. If the Eagles cut Carson Wentz after this season, they would take a dead cap hit of almost $60 million. Now, you got to remember, the salary cap is expected to drop next year, going to be between $175, $180 million. So if they take a $60 million dead cap hit with Carson Wentz, that would be essentially a third or more of their salary cap. In other words, that is not going to happen. But KC, they could just trade Carson Wentz. Well, that's not that simple either. If the Eagles trade him, they would still owe almost $34 million in dead cap space. Now, that's not nearly as bad as the $60 million that they would owe if they just cut him outright, but still, teams don't like taking that big of a cap hit. It's wasted money is what it is. Now, with that being said, there is one way out. This is really, in my opinion, the only way out. Carson Wentz could rework his contract to make it easier for the Eagles to trade him. Now, this might sound familiar because it's exactly what Nick Foles did when the Eagles traded him to Jacksonville. And believe me, there would be a huge market for Carson Wentz if the Eagles and he decide that it's time to move on. I think he would be the most sought-out quarterback in the league, especially now that Dak Prescott's got a devastating injury. If Carson Wentz had his choice of teams, I think he would choose Indianapolis. I think he would want to go to the Colts. It would reunite him with Frank Reich, who was the offensive coordinator in Philadelphia in 2017 when he had his best season in the NFL. Indianapolis has weapons offensively, something that he's lacked the past 2 years in Philadelphia. They've got an elite defense, something that he hasn't had with the Eagles since 2017 when they were 4th in the NFL. Plus, Indianapolis, I think, is going to be looking for a quarterback next year. They only signed Phillip Rivers to a 1-year deal. And I have seen nothing from Phillip Rivers this season that leads me to believe that the Colts are going to bring him back next year. Not yet, anyway. He leads them on a long playoff run. That could obviously change. But let's be honest. That's just not going to happen. Like I said before, the Colts are pretenders. Like I said earlier, though, I believe Carson Wentz is going to be the Eagles' starting quarterback next season. For one, because the contract just makes it too difficult to get rid of him. And two, because he has the potential to be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. He just needs help. The Eagles have to get him some help. They need speed at receiver. Deshaun Jackson is just no longer reliable. He played 3 games last year, only 4 this year. They need to improve the offensive line in Philadelphia. My point is, and the point that I've been trying to make this entire video, Carson Wentz is not the problem with the Eagles. I know this is the NFL, and the quarterback gets the bulk of the blame when their team is struggling. But this is not a Wentz problem. This is more, in my opinion, a front office problem, or a personnel problem anyway. It is hard enough to find a good quarterback in the NFL. There are 32 teams in this league. Think about how many of these teams have a legitimate long-term franchise quarterback, or a quarterback that has the potential to be a franchise or a top 5 quarterback. So when you have one, you hold on to them. The Eagles have one in Carson Wentz. They just need to help him out. They need to improve the team around him. All right, that's all for today. Hit that like and subscribe button. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Leave me a comment in the section below. Should the Eagles move on from Carson Wentz after this season? And do you guys think Carson Wentz has the potential to get back to his 2017 level and be a top 5 quarterback in this league? Let me know your thoughts. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Best way to contact me is by email at BTLKC84@gmail.com. I'll see you guys next time.